As an athlete, one of the biggest players in your success isn't your body, it's your mind. In the world of sports, your performance is everything. But what happens when your mind impacts your performance? This is Mindful Sports. Athletes from all over the world and from every sport take on mental hurdles. And this show is here to help educate about the mental aspect of sports and break the barriers and negative stigmas that prevent athletes from getting help. Your host is pursuing a doctorate in sport and performance psychology, someone who's been a coach, an official, and has education as a scout and athlete agent. So he's kind of qualified. This is Mindful Sports, and here's your host, Colton Swager.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Mindful Sports. I am excited today because we have Miss Lydia in the house. I met her through Jiu-Jitsu. She is an instructor where my family and I do Jiu-Jitsu, and it's been awesome just getting to connect with her, learn about her, watch her teach, get her insight on things, both in the Combatives and in the Women Empowered class especially, and really getting to dive into that. And in fact, it was some of the stuff that I heard from that Women Empowered class that really kind of tipped the scale of, yes, I'm going to get her on this show. And here she is. She agreed. So thank you for being here today.
Absolutely. It's such an honor. Thank you, Colton.
Awesome. Well, I wanted to start off with just having you kind of share a little bit about your background and how you got into Jiu-Jitsu, and specifically what brought you to the Gracie University program.
Absolutely. So my background, I've always been wiry, always been fiery. And I grew up in Arkansas in a very small town, had a passion for people, for helping people, investing in people, but also had a lot of limits because I'm a much smaller individual. And so I was like, well, how can a little person have so much impact? But Gracie Jiu-Jitsu has definitely been transformative in that process. I actually found it through a family friend that encouraged me. I was living in Tulsa, Oklahoma a couple years ago, and a family friend was like, hey, you're teaching. I was teaching elementary school. He's like, you're teaching, you live in a big city, you're by yourself. You probably should think about learning some self-defense. So it's like, okay, I'm down for that. So I pulled out my phone, looked up self-defense in Tulsa, and up popped Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Women Empowered seminar on like the next weekend. So I signed up for it, went by myself, got on the mat, and was introduced to the beautiful facets of the Women Empowered program. What won me over for sure was the trap and roll, because I was terrified of getting attacked and not knowing what to do. So we're like on the ground, someone mounts on top of us, they're sitting on our hips, and I'm like, what do we do? And so I tried this trap and roll, and it worked. And I was like, great, but that was a woman. What happens if a big man said, can I still get up out from under him? And so I grabbed one of the instructors, like this was the biggest one there. I was like, you.
That does not surprise me one bit.
And so he came over and he's like, okay. So he goes into the mount. I grab him, I trap him and roll him, and I get up, and I was like, oh, it worked. It worked. And so I was so excited. I was sold, signed up for the program, and the rest is in the works.
And that trap and roll, also known for a kids program, is the shark bite, right?
Yes.
That kind of seems to fit with your personality there, and wanting to just, no, we're going for it. We're taking this.
I'm gonna take that as a compliment.
Oh man. So obviously you got into it super quickly. That
Yes.
one seminar sealed the deal for you. At what point did you realize that you wanted to go from just learning it to teaching it, and specifically teaching that Women Empowered course?
Yeah, great question. So what's kind of crazy though is as I was going through that process of being in the program, there were several moments where I wanted to quit because it was frustrating and I was like, do I really know these techniques? Can I really do this? And teaching wasn't anywhere on my radar. But after several months, when it started to become more reflexive, I was starting to understand it better. Um, I was like, okay, I have a gift, I have a tool, and I think it's a missing piece to what I'm passionate about because backstory, there was someone who's extremely close to me that actually went through a very intense domestic violence situation.
Mm,
And when she came out of it, I watched this whole process of like the trauma that remained. And I felt extremely helpless in being able to walk with her in her healing process. And when I started training in Women Empowered, I began to walk through my own healing process of how I perceived men and things like that. Because I grew up with people like, oh, you're the small one. So people picked on me all the time.
yep.
And I was like, it caused a lot of self-doubt, a lot of insecurity that I had to push through. And even in that, I watched myself heal, thinking about this woman. I was like, oh my gosh, if she had these tools, how much more could it help her, not only to change her mindset of not every man is like that, but two, if he ever were to come back,
Mm,
these are tools I could use to fight that fear. And that passion for her, she wasn't open to receiving it at the time. But I was like, even if she won't receive, how many more women will?
yeah.
And who can I help? And so by acquiring the skill set of Women Empowered, I was like, I can't keep this to myself. I need to spread this. And it was just something I stepped into and it was like a leap of faith saying like, I don't really know if this is my trajectory or where my life is going because I was very heavily on the education track.
Yeah.
But taking that step has led to an open door of being able to launch the program in Colorado Springs after moving here, and then working with women of all sorts of backgrounds. And watching their healing process has just been already pieces of fulfillment of that desire to restore.
Yeah. And you talked a lot about that fear and that healing process of what can happen.
Mm-hmm.
Can you dive into that a little bit more? Like what is that process like of going from being afraid to feeling confident in yourself?
Absolutely. Wow, this is really near and dear to my heart. So for me specifically, one of the greatest fears that I had to fight, I
Mhm.
had two main ones. The first one was if someone bigger attacked me, whether I knew them or not, would I have the skill to get out? And I didn't believe I did, which shows a deeper root of incapability. Because every lie, every demeaning comment that had been spoken over me, not just in one arena, but in multiple for being the smaller person, it constructed this idea in my heart that I'm not able to surpass these boundaries. I'm not able to jump
Mm,
over these obstacles, right? So going through a program that is all about a process
mhm.
and about growth over time, I wanted something instant. I wanted to see I can get out of this right now, today, all the time, forever.
Yeah.
And that's not how jujitsu works. And so by continuing to face that fear, because we don't overcome fear by ignoring it.
Mhm.
We don't overcome fear by just trying to pray it away. Like we have to face it with the right tools.
Yeah.
And for me, by continuing to show up, because when the thoughts came of, I'm done, I can't figure it out, I'm frustrated, I don't like this, it's not helping me, which was a lie. It was a lie that was binding me in that fear, right? I had to face that fear and say, no, I'm going to keep going anyways. I'm
Mhm.
going to have to push through this. And in time, I believe I'm going to make it on the other side. And so by facing that fear, I got better. I kept showing up. I got stronger. I found out why it didn't work when my angle was off. I found out why it didn't work when I was trying to muscle it instead of use the leverage. And
Mhm.
by learning those gaps and filling those gaps, the technique itself became stronger. and my confidence began to grow. And I began to learn, okay, I can get there, but it requires time and frequency, consistency, right? And in time, I'll be able to do what I couldn't do before, because I couldn't then, but I can now. And if I have grown that much, how much more can I grow going forward? And so by the time I was getting my pink belt, which was about 10 months of doing the program, I was like, I got this. Like, I've been training this for so long. And then the moment I was faced with the test, I actually had an anxiety attack the night before. I was in combatives at that point, so not just women empowered. I was in combatives at our reflex class. And it was a night where we actually went through every single combatives technique in preparation for our combatives test. And I couldn't remember anything. I mean, nothing. No names were making sense. My brain just blanked on me. And I just started crying. I was just like, I don't know what's happening. I was like, I can't, I'm not, because it was the lies again of, you can't do this.
Yeah.
You don't remember it. You're not capable. So it was backed by the lie of, you're not enough. And that was what was motivating that anxiousness. And my instructor was so kind. He came over and he noticed, like, I was like, I can't do it. I can't figure it out, blah, 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 whatever. And I'm like, it's the test tomorrow. I just can't, I don't know. I can't remember anything. And so he was like, okay, we're going to go through women empowered, not combatives, and we're going to go really slow. So we slowly started going through. I couldn't remember women's either. And I was like, this is terrible. And he was so gentle and so calm and walked me through the steps to help me kind of push past that barrier. And that night I went home and was just trying to journal everything. And I was writing like narrative style, like whatever creativity I could use to get it out of my system. And the next morning when I woke up, I was like, Lord, you are going to have to help me, because I am facing these fears right head on. Like, if I don't pass this test, then in my mind, that was confirming I couldn't do it. But I was like, but I have to. I can't, because I wanted to cancel. I wanted to be like, let's reschedule. I need more time. But I didn't need more time. I needed the confidence to just do it. And that's what they did. I walked in. They were like, you'll be fine. You got it. And I was like, you know. But we went through the test detail by detail, right? And even when I go back and look at it, I'm like so tense. I'm like, you know, like doing all of the techniques. But I did it. I finished it, and I scored a 99.
Nice.
So it was like, okay. But what did that do to me? The night they presented my pink belt, it was like all of that anxious, all that worry, all that concern, all of the lies that had consistently been trying to come back to defeat me and keep me from pressing forward, it all broke. So to me, when I wear that pink belt, I'm not like, oh yeah, I earned it, blah, blah, blah. I worked hard for that. To me, it's like, no, this was the evidence that I beat fear. This is the evidence that the lies couldn't hold me anymore. This is the evidence that when you face it head on, even afraid, when you just do it, it cannot stay attached to you anymore. So for me, that has been a huge part of my process of facing fear head on, refusing to quit, refusing to back down, faltering at times, but getting back up again.
Yeah.
And going through the end and getting to the finish. And that has led to all sorts of phases afterwards. So
you said a lot in there that was just really good, especially about how the fear fed you those lies of you can't do this and you're not good enough. And I think that's so important, especially when we look at the mental side of being an athlete as well, that when you have that, you start to not see things properly. You know, like you said, you got a 99. Clearly you knew it. Clearly you could do it. But that fear in your mind was, I don't know. I can't do this. This isn't good enough. I mean, that's so big. And that's a great connection to obviously Women Empowered is very self-defense focused.
Mhm.
And you're a competitor yourself. You know this, I've seen this. You're a competitive person, absolutely.
Very.
What are the differences that you see, and even similarities that you see, between that self-defense and the competitive nature?
Oh, yeah. Wow. It actually took me some time to think about this one because of how much my mindset has transformed over the past 2 years, because I started in 2019. But kind of piggybacking right off what we were saying about the mentality and in the athletic side, we look at our goal, right? From the competitive side of, I have to be the best. I have to win and I have to be better than all these people.
Yep.
And so we get into this mindset of not being growth oriented, but being perfection oriented, right? Of, I have to be better than everyone else, instead of saying, I have to beat myself.
Say that part again of the perfection versus growth, because that was so perfect.
Yeah. So when we are competing, we're not thinking about, I need to grow myself.
Mm-hmm.
I need to get better. We're thinking, I have to be perfect above everybody else, like the highest of the hierarchy, right?
Yes.
Because we want the gold medal. But at the end of our life, or at the end of our career, what's going to matter more? That our character developed, that we became better, that we overcame obstacles, that now we can help others in their lives to do that same thing, to overcome, not just in a competitive season, but in our lives when we face circumstances and challenges. Are we going to be strong enough to rise above, or are we going to crumble, right? So when our character is developed, and that is the priority, we're able to carry that into the rest of our lives. Whereas if it's all about being perfect and the best and on top, the pressure has come onto us, right? This mindset of, if I don't reach this, I'm nothing.
Yep.
And that's a lie. Because who we are, no matter what realm we're in, no matter what sport, no matter what, it doesn't matter. You have purpose. And the greater purpose in that is the people you're connected to and how you're developing each other. And competition, this is what self-defense has taught me, specifically Gracie, because they really train this hardcore, especially in our instructor courses, is your partners, the people you train with, are the most important people in the room. Whereas competition says, I have to be better than you. Self-defense says, we get to grow each other. And if anything I'm doing to you is hurting you, and now you're broken and you can't be on the mat, how are we supposed to grow together?
Yeah.
I just hindered myself because I don't have you to help me grow. And I just hindered you because now you're injured and you have 3 months on the bench. There's no teamwork in that. It's very egotistic and self-centered. But when we move into that side of, even in sports, even where you are competing with others, when I see another, like, I just started learning Olympic lifting. It's a whole new realm for me. But
yeah,
when I see other women my size lifting like that, it's not, I have to be better than them. It's, I can do that. They just proved to me that I can go higher. So this mindset that I had of, no, a year ago, I would have told you, I would have actually told my trainer in Tulsa. He was like, would you like do Olympic? And I was like, no. And now look at me. Like, it's crazy how that works, right? But when I see other women, it helps me take off my barriers of what I used to say I couldn't do or would never be able to do. That's a lie. Yes, you can. So by seeing someone who's amazing, it helps me grow and say, I want to get there. And yes, we're in competition with each other. Yes, we're both wanting to get our higher scores. But at the end of the day, did I grow? Because even if I didn't get gold, if I grew, I won. Growth is winning because I don't stop there. I'm going to grow more and I'm going to go more. And actually, the same thing with self-defense too. You win or you learn. You don't win or lose. You win or you learn. And when we fail and we fail forward, we gain so much more.
Yeah.
Because now I can take that into my next realm. When if I did everything perfectly, am I going to go back and remember what I did and evaluate it and perfect it? No, because I won. Boom, done. Mission accomplished.
Yep.
But when I miss it, I say, okay, why? Deconstruct that. Pull out, extract what I can do differently. Now I'm going to apply that the rest of my life. So that just grew me this much. Now my character's more refined. My thinking has been stretched.
Yep.
And I have grace for myself in the process. Because in competition, there's no grace. The number of people I worked with in self-defense who came from some, not competition like jujitsu, but competition swimming, any athletics, right?
Yep.
Who cannot get past this barrier in their mind of, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not perfect. And it's like, why do you think that? We can dissect it, and what does it go back to? Well, my coach would always tell me that. Okay, so how did that grow you? Because it looks like it actually cut you.
Yeah.
Deep.
Well, and that's big mentioning the coach too, because that just shows that they have so much sway over their athletes and influence on their athletes and their athletes' mindsets too.
Right.
And you tie it in perfectly to a conversation that I actually had with a soccer player on the switchbacks here in the Springs, who was talking about needing to fail forward and grow. And you also tied it in perfectly to a series that I did a little while ago on competitive mindsets and looking at the difference between mastery and the term that I came up with to use for bestism, and then that next step to perfection. And so those steps of mastery bringing that growth of there's always another master and you're always learning. And in order to be the master, you have to continue to grow. Right. And then you have that bestism where it's a little bit more ego driven. You don't necessarily need to be perfect, but you feel like you have to be the best. And so you get a little bit of growth in order to be the best, but that ego starts to come in, and then hitting perfectionism with that ego of I have to be perfect and I can't mess up at all. And it's perfect just hearing you tie all of those concepts together with that. That's awesome.
That's huge. And there's like going off of what you said about that perfectionism, like when that happens, what do? If I have to be perfect, no one else is allowed to see me when I'm not perfect, because I know that I'm not there. But I want to put on a show for everyone else. So now I'm going to live under this pressure, which means what? I just isolated myself from all my community. Because if I let anyone close, they're going to know that I'm a fraud. But what does isolation do? It eliminates our ability to expand and grow and let our strengths partner with others' strengths. So now we're a team and we're unified and we're building each other.
Yeah. Well, and that helps, especially bringing in that perfection of not letting anybody be able to see us when we're not perfect. And tying in the women empowered, that's something that in our society we have to talk about a lot, because we put this pressure on women especially to be turned on all the time, to be aware of their surroundings all the time. Being a woman yourself, seeing people having gone through those situations, how accurate is it? And do you believe that really that it's taking a toll on women?
Yeah. Let me tell you, I lived it. Because here's what society says. One, women, it's all your responsibility to make sure you don't get hurt, and to make sure you're in the groups all the time, and to make sure that you're not wearing something or doing something or saying something that's going to cause a man to attack you or to assault you. Like, they're putting the responsibility on women, when the reality is no assault is a woman's fault.
Yeah.
That is the character of the assailant. And until every man's character is wholly towards a woman, assaults won't end. It's not our fault. Now, here's the thing. Because we're being put under that pressure of women, you have to do this and you have to be aware and you have to do this. I lived in the fear of, oh my gosh, there's always an assailant around somewhere and I have to be alert all the time because if I don't see it coming, I'm not going to be able to defend myself. I'm so small. That was my limitation. So I lived in a fear because I'm like, I look like an easy target. You know how hard it is to pick me up? Not very,
Nope.
Now it is. Try me, I dare you. But
All right. Friday.
I'll be there on the mat tonight, Colton. We actually did that class last night with women, so they would all be ready to get picked up.
That is awesome.
That's the morning. Anyways, but I lived under that kind of pressure, and also not just in being alert and aware, but in people that I knew. Like anytime I was near a man, even like family friends that I'd grown up with, and they were fine, they were safe. They would never, like they would defend me. They wouldn't hurt me. But in my home, I had the anxious. In high school, I had the anxiousness. I was 14 and I was fearing, but what if they're thinking that? What if, like, I could not be around anyone, like in leadership too. I would just get nervous and freeze and be like, something's going to happen. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But that is not how it should be. It takes an extensive toll because we're told be responsible for being aware, but we're not given the tools to fight. Nobody says, okay, well, here's how you set boundaries to help avoid the situation. Here's how you fight them, because they say, be kind, be sweet. You're the one who's supposed to be hospitable. You're the one. And look, I get it. I'm all about hospitality. I'm all about loving people.
Yep.
But not at the expense of our safety.
Yes.
I'm all about being hospitable, but there's also a time to be fierce.
Yeah.
There's also a time to set a boundary and say, if you cross this, you will receive the consequences. That boundaries protect what is valuable. And if we don't know our own value, then how, and if we don't have the tools, how are we going to defend that?
Yeah.
So it's in putting a fear, which inhibits and causes a shutdown, basically, instead of saying, here's the reality. There are people in the world whose hearts are like this and who have ill intent against you. If this happens, I want you to say this. If this happens, here's how you set a boundary with them to test their motives. Here's the phases that they go through when they're starting to try to get closer to your heart so they can manipulate you and assault you. Here's the thing. It's unrealistic to be aware all the time. It's unrealistic to be in that mentality all the time.
Yeah.
What is realistic is being taught, here are the attack strategies of an assailant. And that's what we do in Women Empowered. We want to help educate, to bring awareness, and then we equip. So we educate with the 4 phases of a stranger that is attacking, the 4 phases of a non-stranger because they are different.
Yeah.
And then we talk about the triangle victimization. When is it most likely that for an assault to occur? We need 3 things: an assailant, a target, and an opportunity. The opportunity is greater when there are not many bystanders around, when it's dark, when it's secluded. So that would be a great time to go in groups. That would be a great time to be more aware. But if you're in the grocery store picking out your meat, it's very unlikely someone's going to pick you up and start throwing you over their shoulder and trying to run you out of the store.
Yeah.
So that's a time where I can be chill. But if someone did sneak attack, I've got the tools to defend. So we say, here's how you can be more aware. Now, let's give you the tools. So if someone's approaching you, set a boundary verbally. If they cross that boundary, You can identify, okay, their motives against me are probably not intending well. So what do I need to be ready to do? Defend. All right, here's the tools. We talk about defending from standing positions and ground positions, right? That's critical. By giving the right tools in the right places and the mindset on how to think about it, that equips women. So we don't have to be in fear and we don't have to be on guard all the time. Instead, we realize I am learning to defend myself, not because it's my responsibility, but because it's my reality. And here's the tools I need to do that.
Yeah. I feel like that's perfect too, in saying that those unrealistic expectations of always having to be on all the time. Because I feel like that's something that we do with athletes as well, where we expect them not only to perform on the field, not only to be there for the media after the games and before the games and throughout the week and be there for practices, but we also expect them to keep this image and this persona and this brand going throughout their daily lives too. They got to be open to signing autographs. They have people trying to find them or follow them. They get threats all the time. Like, there's so many things that they also have to be aware of all the time. Do you think that there's any sort of similarities in those mindsets, those expectations, and how exhausting do you think, coming from that position that you have as a woman who's had to be on all the time, how exhausting would that be for an athlete?
Yeah, I can only imagine. To feel like you have to support an image that's not genuine, and to feel like you always have to be ready to please people instead of just be yourself and to be loved and to be known and cherished for who you are. That is really challenging and draining, because it says you are valuable for what you do. When the truth is, athletes are valuable for who they are.
Yeah.
Outside of their sport. If you're injured and you can't play, guess what? You're still worthy of being loved, of being cherished, of being known, of being heard. Right?
Yep.
That doesn't change based on your athleticism or your status or your stats. None of that. At the end of the day, none of that matters when it comes to your heart and your well-being as a person. And to be able to have that sort of community that you can walk into and be safe, just letting that guard down and letting yourself be expressive and just play some cards. Do something, go for a walk, enjoy your people, watch a movie. I don't know, cook a meal, go dancing. Find something fun where you can let go and release and just be valued as a person. It helps to heal and restore the heart and the emotional side of things, to let that pressure go. And then guess what? When you get back on the field, you're more ready to go.
Yeah.
If we're emotionally drained when we step onto the field, the court, the floor, the gym floor, whatever it is, it's so much harder to be on point. But when we're clear and we're refreshed, we're healthy, we're eating right, it's different. It's different. And we can perform at a higher level because our identity isn't shifted by our performance.
Yeah, I feel like that's such a hard thing for athletes to both understand and to really implement, because of the business side of sports. They are a commodity. Let's be real. They get traded, they get signed, they get released. They're paid, they're employees. And then they're sponsors. They have sponsors that they have to support and everything too. And I feel like that makes it very difficult for athletes to find that time where they can do those things, where they can relax, where they can take that mental break, especially in a day with social media now where everybody's on all the time. Everybody's looking for every little thing you say. Everybody's waiting for you to respond to things. And that's just, it's draining.
It is. And there comes a point to where you have to make the decision of, am I going to live under this pressure, or am I going to accept the fact that not everyone's going to like me, that not everyone's going to approve of me, not everyone's going to love how I live my daily life, or what my hobbies are, or who my friends are. You know what? It doesn't matter, because, you're right. It's hard to wrap your head around that when life is about fans. But when you find who your real friends are, and it's the 2 or 3 or 4 that last forever, those are the people that you need to be more concerned about. When your close friends who really know you are real with you and are like, dude, that was not cool.
Mm-hmm.
The way you handled that situation, the way you talked to her, the way you blew up at those are the real people who know you and are able to call you out and help guide you and taking the right steps. Like I was saying earlier, character development is the key. It's so much less about the statistics. If your character is broken, do you have real friends? Like, do you have, are you able to sustain yourself in life too, outside of your sport? Like, that's important.
Yeah. I loved your point too about needing to have those tools to be prepared for those situations.
Yes.
Where maybe the athlete, is out and about and they do get bum rushed by somebody who wants an autograph or wants this, and being able to be prepared to handle those situations. And it makes me think of one of the comments that I heard while I was watching one of the women empowered classes that you did at the end as everybody was talking. I heard one of the students say, I struggled with remembering the name of the next step or which step came next. But I knew that I had options and there was comfort in that.
Yeah.
How important is being able to be comfortable in knowing that you have those tools in a high stress situation, whether it's some random person coming up to you, people interrupting you and not being able to do what you want to do? How important is that for performance in that moment? And why is that so important?
Oh, it's absolutely pivotal, because if we're not prepared for that, then the moment something happens we weren't expecting, we weren't prepared for, what does that do it gives us a stress response. And then a lot of times we get out of our prefrontal cortex where we're thinking straight. We're getting into our fight or flight or our emotions, right? And then we don't know, if we don't have those reflexes in place to handle that situation, it could be total chaos. And maybe we think quick on our feet. Some are better than others at that, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you can divert the situation or get out. But when you have the reflexes to defend, you have the arsenal in your tool belt to say, okay, you know what? Someone bombards me in a time where I need the space to just decompress or whatever. Okay, do I know how to set my boundaries right now? How to tell them respectfully, like, I appreciate this, but I need this time right now to refresh and recoup so I can be on top of my game, right?
Yeah.
To be able to say that and feel comfortable and confident. Now what? When I know I have that tool in place, there's a piece that comes from knowing that there's a backup plan.
Mm-hmm.
There's a contingency plan.
Yeah.
It's peace. We have a piece of knowing, right? And not just having, like my student was saying, she was like, not only in that series, we were doing something called the punch block series. So we have 5 different stages of blocking punches, depending on how close the opponent or assailant is to us. And there are 5 options in that one setting. So it's not just one tool, but it's multiple tools.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't practice those in safe spaces, we don't develop the reflexes.
Yeah.
So it's actually the process of saying, okay, I'm learning it. It's new. I don't really get it, and it feels weird. It's awkward, but I'm learning it.
Yeah.
The second time, okay, I've seen this before. I know that I'm safe, but for some reason, it's still not working in these areas. Why is it not working? And then we find those details. Oh, I didn't grab the head. Oh, I didn't put my feet in block. Oh, I just let them fall on top of me, right?
Yeah.
So it's learning those things. The third time we see it, it's like, okay, I understand
Mm-hmm.
the motion now. It's familiar. I know it. And the fourth time, it's like, I'm reflex. Someone come at me, So it's consistently repeating these multiple different tactics
Mm-hmm.
to where it becomes second nature to us. So now someone randomly comes up to me, I still might flinch, but it's not long before I'm in base. And it's like, you are not moving me. You
Yep.
try to pick me up, you're gonna regret it, but it's like it comes with time. And I know for my personal life, even now, after completing Women Empowered and then teaching it for a year
Mm-hmm.
now, I am tremendously more confident in it now after teaching than I was when I first got my pink belt.
Yeah.
The principles and everything, it's not just the movement itself, but now the principles are starting to be applied in my heart. So where I'm able to say, okay, I don't have a technique for this,
Mm-hmm.
but the principle that can correlate to it is this. So I can create my own option using the same principle. So now it's fluid.
Yeah. How would you go about that shift of mindset? Because obviously as a competitor, as an athlete, our mindsets are very assertive and not necessarily aggressive, although in some sports there can be that aggression, but really assertive and forward, to then getting almost more that defensive side. Because obviously a lot of athletes, especially in men's sports, their first reaction is probably going to be to go even over assertion and go to aggression of lashing out and attacking somebody who is being confrontational with them or is surprising them or is coming up to them when they're wanting to have some time. How would you go about, I don't know, almost describing that shift of being able to be a competitor and then being able to set your boundaries?
Yeah. Honestly, it comes with time.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that, I mean, from personal experience, it's not something that I was just able to do because naturally I tend, especially how I used to defend myself. I just have images of me and my sister going at it, but or my cousins, my bigger guy cousins
Yeah.
throwing Jenga blocks, that was those were the the reflexes that I had developed growing up.
Yeah.
And even now, so there are times, even in just conversation, someone will say something and I feel the need to just defend myself, not
Yeah.
in a very calm manner, but very like frustrated and like accusatory. And it's like, because we are retraining our brain patterns
Mm.
in what we've done. And that is not a quick process. It takes practice and being in simulated situations where we can say, okay, usually here's how I react. That wasn't very great. How can I do it differently? And then being able to practice with someone, it feels weird. It feels odd,
Yeah.
especially when you first start, because you're like, why am I doing this? They're going to think I'm weird. It doesn't matter because you're changing your life. You're changing how you and other people will interact from here on out. And it's worth going through the awkward and the uncomfortable to get to a place where we have a higher emotional intelligence.
Mm.
But we have to have practice.
Yeah.
And receiving those right tools, those extra tools. And then not only practicing, but visualizing it in our hearts and our minds and seeing situations like maybe finding a past one or thinking up a new one. If someone came and accused me of this, like, you've got to know your own triggers.
Yeah.
If we don't know our own triggers, we don't know which ones we need to be working on, right? So that self-awareness is huge. But if someone's trigger is someone telling them, like joking with them saying, oh, that wasn't good enough. You know, that's a huge one. That's huge in sports. And they did amazing. They were like, you can do better. And it's like, really? Like, I just busted my butt for you and
Yes.
you can do better.
Yes.
Like that's a huge thing, right? So knowing your trigger and being like, how do I respond to that? Why am I so offended? And how can I work through that? And even if they are trying to hurt me, maybe they're not, maybe they're trying to joke and you just don't like that, but maybe they are trying to hurt you. How can I no longer take that personally? Because it's not their responsibility to control your emotions. It's yours.
Yeah.
So when someone else does that, they actually don't have the power to make me react. That's on me.
Yep.
So I have to develop the skill set to control myself in that kind of situation.
Yeah.
So if I can visualize it, find my trigger, figure out why it's frustrating to me, and start visualizing how to change my reaction. Changing it, practicing in the mirror. It sounds funny, but it's huge.
Yeah.
Practicing with my friends. And then next thing I know, I'm like, oh my gosh. Next time someone comes, I actually am ready.
Yeah.
So
well, and that's good that you brought up visualization too, because that's something that a lot of sports psychologists will work with athletes on, is visualizing the performance and the result that you're expecting and wanting, because that visualization and that seeing it in your mind is so critical to then being able to go out and perform, because now you're prepared. Now you're confident. Now you know that you can do these things. You've seen yourself do it. You've put yourself through those motions of that scenario, that now you feel like you have the ability to do it. And it lowers those emotions that you were talking about, because you're not as emotional about the situation as you are cognitively responsive to that emotion or to that situation. And it's funny because I was also talking with my daughter last night about this too while we were on our way home, because she was talking about how some of the people will, you know, give her a stink eye or say you've been mean. She's like, I've never even been around you. What are you talking about? What could I possibly have done? And that she's got one friend that just goes second to second of, hey, we're best friends. Hey, we're not friends anymore. And obviously she's in that stage where they're very emotional kids and things change from second to second. And she just started bursting out in tears. And it's like, look, those words don't mean anything. Like, they have feeling, they can hurt your emotions, but who can you control? Can you control and change her and what she does? Or do you have to control yourself and your response to it? And that's so something that's so important, is tempering those emotions.
Right.
And I know that being a coach, being an instructor, you've seen those mindset changes throughout your time in your students. Is there ever a clear moment when you see that light bulb just go on and that mindset switches? And do you have an example of that?
Yes, I love this question. I love it because these moments are just like, they're the ones from a coach perspective that fuel me. Like, every time I see it, I'm like, winner, we did it, we got it. And it's different for every woman. And watching their process when it happens and during what moment it happened, it's different depending on everyone's experiences. One huge one, I just love this so much. I've had a mom-daughter pair that have been doing private lessons since, I don't remember, just a few months. It's been a few months. So probably for about maybe 3 months, because they just got their second stripe. So 3 or 4 months. And this mom was very much like, I don't have any desire to do self-defense. I don't want anyone near me. Like, I don't like being confrontational, just very, but she did it because her daughter was doing it. And so she did it as a support.
Yeah.
And we just finished every single class technique. So we finished that and we started recycling through the second round of classes because for those who don't know, the way Gracie Jiu-Jitsu does it is we believe you have to do every class about 4 times each to become actually reflexive in the technique. So after we go through all of them, we recycle through it. And so we were in our second cycle and something in her just came alive. Like we were doing trap and rolls and
there it is again, that trap and roll.
Oh, it is a trap. It's powerful. And because in the trap and roll, we actually bring ourselves closer to the assailant. And the question is, why would we ever do that? Like we want to get away from him. Why would we get close? And it's counterintuitive, but it helps us establish the angle we need to get our leverage point that enables our escape. So with her, this was a week ago, actually. We were doing the trap and rolls and she hit that trap and roll like I have never seen her with passion. And then we were doing super slaps. I mean, she actually was like slapping me and I was like, get it. Like I have never seen you with such force and excitement and passion. And she was like, it clicked for me. She's like, I understand now. Like the first time I was just like, why would we do this? It's uncomfortable. I don't like it. And now she's like, I get it. We have to get close. But then it helps us get far. Like if we're too far, they're going to punch us. They're going to get distance, and just the understanding of it, the barrier of, I hate this. This is uncomfortable.
Yes.
This is, I don't ever want to be in this situation. I'd rather ignore it than prepare for it. Right? Boom. That was shifted. So now the flow of technique is there and the passion is there. It's revived. And I'm just like, it's worth it. And I tell ladies all the time. I tell them all the time, ladies, I've been in it. I walked through it. I was frustrated. I was done, but I just kept showing up. And I tell them all the time, I almost quit. And if I would have quit, I wouldn't be here today.
Yeah.
And they're all like, that would be so sad. I was like, well, you wouldn't know it because we wouldn't know each other.
You never would have heard this story.
They get mad at me for almost quitting, like 2 years ago. And it's so funny. But I tell them that because I want them to know if you stick with the process, you never know what's on the other side.
Yeah.
Whether it is teaching or if it's just confidence, if it's the clarity, I have watched women come in with face like just what's that word? Solemn? Is that the right word? I just totally blanked. That's this empty, broken face.
Yeah.
And you can see what people have been, not what they've been through, but how they've been through some things. And I watch the moments in the conversations. This is another example. It's in the conversations where they hear for the first time, you don't always have to be nice. Your safety is not less important.
Yeah.
It's more important than being polite if someone is trying to attack you. And I've watched this whole blinder come off of them and they're like, I am worth defending.
Yeah.
I have the right to tell someone to get back and don't touch me. I have the right to set a boundary and uphold it. And I have the tools to uphold it.
Yeah.
And from that place comes this deep inner warrior that every woman, every person has this. But there is a ferocity that women are created to carry that I have watched be ignited from the simple conversations of the belief I am worth defending.
Well, we are getting definitely to our time that we had scheduled. It's been so much fun and I really don't want to stop because it's just awesome being able to hear and see those connections, especially coming from the perspective of self-defense and your everyday people, and the way that we see and can connect so many of these things to what athletes go through too, and the performance required and the mental pressure and the mental wear and tear that we can connect to. Because I feel like oftentimes we see athletes as these superhuman beings that we expect to be perfect, and we have these unrealistic expectations, like we talked about earlier, of what it is that they're supposed to be doing and able to do. And I think it's really important to see that connection between what an athlete would go through and the mindsets that they might have, or the tools that they may have to use, to the same mindsets that just us as everyday people would see and deal with. And so one last question, I just wanted to get 2 pieces of advice from you that you would have for someone who's struggling with a mental block that's preventing them from being able to perform or respond in a way that they know that they've been trained for, but something's just keeping them from getting there.
Yeah. Excellent question. 2 big things. The first one, take a moment or a day or an evening and step away from it all. Let it go. Go do something totally out of the ordinary. Use wisdom, but do something out of the ordinary. Go do something that you enjoy, that's not your everyday, that's fun, that's creative, or try something brand new. Like maybe you're not artsy, go get some paint, some things, and just try to draw and paint something. Like be absolutely ridiculous fun. Just get your head out of it and then show up again. So what does this do? It gives you time to step away, to find out if you need to dissect some things.
Yeah.
Why is that there? Why is that mental block there? What do we need to process? What lies are you experiencing? Because let me tell you, one of the greatest barriers to anything in our lives, not just competition, but things we're called to do, big goals that we have, missions that we're created to accomplish. The number one hindrance is the lies that we believe. So identify that lie and then speak the truth. And maybe you don't even believe it yet, but you declare who you are. You declare what you're going to accomplish. You declare the community that you have supporting you and upholding you, and break through that lie, and then go show up again. And maybe you don't feel it when you show up again, but let me tell you, when you refuse to quit, you can't be beat.
Those are good.
I don't care how many times you fail, get up.
Yeah.
I did a Spartan race a couple months ago, and on my shirt, I had them, this person, I forgot the word, but they put the vinyl on it, and it said, "I will rise again." Because a whole Spartan race, if you haven't heard of it, is obstacles.
Oh yeah.
And obstacles and obstacles. And let me tell you, you're going to fall, you're going to get muddy, you're going to get drenched. I love that part. It's awesome. But when you fail an obstacle, guess what? Get up again and keep going, because the finish line hasn't moved. It's still right there. But if you quit, the lies win. Don't do that. Get up. Go on. Muster everything you have, and look at the people around you, because they're having to do it too. And you're not alone. Isolation, oh my gosh. Isolation will hinder you. But you grab your community of people and you say, "I need help." Humble yourself and ask for help. Together, get up and go. You will not be defeated.
That is awesome. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time today to come chat and hang out. This was fun and I loved it. And you shared so many things that were so important and insightful. And so thank you. I greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely, Colton. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And thank you, everybody else, for tuning in and checking this out. I hope it really impacts your life.
Yeah. Thank you guys for showing up today. We appreciate Miss Lydia for being here, and I will see her on Friday when we do jujitsu again, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Take care and have a great day, everybody. Please be sure to hit that like button, share this with your friends and family, and leave us a comment down below. Thank you everybody for watching. To stay up to date, make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell. Have a great day.